Hey guys, my name is Christina.
My name is Brian, and welcome to What the Fuck Did I Just Watch?
Where every week we will be rolling a 26-face die that will determine the first letter of the movie we will watch this week.
The twist is that one of us, or both of us, have never seen the movie before.
So join us as we share our thoughts on the movie.
I mean, that's gonna be horrible, but yes, absolutely.
Have a few laughs.
Stop it. And discuss what the fuck we just watched.
We're out of this world, what the fuckers! That's all I can think of.
I told you it didn't have to be special.
I know, I just like...
still went for it. Swing and a miss. That's your motto.
I clunked it.
You clunked it.
Yeah, not exactly a hit, just like I made contact.
Clunk, though.
Yeah, I made contact with the ball. Don't overthink it, Pants. Like, don't overthink the ending of this movie.
You bunted it?
I clunked it. I made contact with the ball. I didn't say I bunted it. Bunting is actually bunting. I clunked it. Get out of here.
Okay. Hello, Tina.
Hello, Pants.
And welcome back to my house.
Oh my goodness. Once a week. So exciting.
So, this week, we watched 1968's 2001 A Space Odyssey.
Mm-hmm.
Tina, what did you think?
Okay, so my initial thoughts on this movie were it was incredibly interesting, but also incredibly dull. It was deep and dull. We'll go with that. That's what she said. And so...
Why would she say that?
I don't know. I don't know. It was interesting to watch, but I was getting Snyder Cut vibes, as in a little too long.
Wow.
Yeah. It was interesting. I honestly thought that it was kind of cool that they elongated some scenes that weren't necessarily something that people do when they're creating movies, but I also am not in agreement with it being every single like scene. And then the ending. I don't know. What about you?
Well, I went into this expecting not to like it because I have seen it before, but I honestly don't think, now that I've watched it for this, seen it in its entirety. I know that I told you when we decided to do this that this movie is one that I've never been able to watch in one sitting.
Right.
I still didn't watch it in one sitting, but not because I was bored, but because I had things to do. But I am almost like shocked that I haven't seen it in its entirety before, because I really enjoyed it.
Oh, well, good.
It's not straightforward, like in any sense.
Correct.
It's kind of sprawling would be an understatement for what it's doing, but there's definitely something that one could expect when going into a Stanley Kubrick movie, that it's probably not going to be straightforward. There's going to be a lot of metaphor. There's going to be a lot of symbolism. I don't know if those are the same thing or not, but anyway, there's both. And just a lot of vaguity.
Vaguity.
Is there a word for
I would just
vague?
say it was just vague. Is vaguity a word?
It's not. It's okay. There's I'm gonna say it's fine. So there's a lot of vaguity, and and I'm cool with that. I like movies that
Are vaguity.
And we're gonna make this happen. Make vaguity work. No, it's I like, thought-provoking movies. Like, I think it's a lot of what Christopher Nolan is doing now with, like, Interstellar and what's the one with the dreams? And they go into the dreams. Inception. Yeah. It's kind of like that, but not as obviously trying to be thought-provoking.
I see.
If that makes sense. But anyway, that said, I enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. And I know that Kubrick didn't do the sequel, but I now want to go watch it just to see what it is.
Sure.
But anyways.
That will be a only you thing.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
No.
Yeah, we'll see. So, as I said, this movie did come out in 1968. It is starring Keir Dullea, Gary Lockwood, and William Sylvester, and it was directed by Stanley Kubrick.
The budget for this film was somewhere between 10 and 16 million. We're not totally sure how much it was. It did gross in the US and Canada $60.4 million. IMDb has this sitting at an 8.3. Rotten Tomatoes has it at 92% with an audience score of 89%. We did watch this on HBO Max.
Indeed. It's where you can watch it too.
If you have HBO.
Max.
Pants drew a little monolith on our board that we have up here that dictates the movies that we're watching.
Mm-hmm.
It is
perfect.
The best drawing, hands down, that I've ever seen.
Oh my God, thank you so much.
Next to Julia Roberts last week as Pretty Woman. You should share these.
She wasn't drawn. Oh, you're talking about my drawing of Julia Roberts.
Yes.
I just thought you meant Julia Roberts as a person.
If you could draw Julia Roberts, we wouldn't be doing this podcast.
I did last week.
Well,
yeah,
I should
very
include
well.
that.
Yes.
No, if you drew her well.
No,
we
it
would not
was
be
drawn
doing
very
this.
well.
Okay.
Do you have a synopsis?
I sure do.
Okay.
After discovering a mysterious artifact buried beneath the lunar surface, mankind sets off on a quest to find its origins with help from intelligent supercomputer HAL 9000.
Yes. That is the synopsis.
So, HAL was kind of cool. And we can get into it when we go past spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
That part was really interesting to me. I like movies about artificial intelligence and people's theories on how things could go.
Mm-hmm.
Again, there were just some scenes that were much too long for sleepy me.
Yeah, don't watch it at night.
Do not watch this movie if you are tired. I am telling you right now, there is way too many moments where you are kind of in silence. Sometimes there's wailing, but do not watch it if you're tired, because I had to force myself to fidget last night so that I could try and finish this movie.
I think it would honestly be really good white noise for people who want to go to sleep.
I don't.
Something to have in the background.
Absolutely not.
I think it would
if
be.
If you want to have anxiety-ridden dreams.
Hal's voice is creepy as fuck, but kind of almost ASMR-y. I hate ASMR, by the way, but it's almost don't hate it. Don't stop. Don't fuck with me. I hate ASMR. It's so unnerving. Anyway,
this was unnerving. You really need to work on...
Tell me what I need to work on.
You really need to work on figuring out why the wailing makes you calmer than ASMR.
You almost fell asleep. You said it.
I would wake up
because you were
when
soothed.
He was like...
Who?
I don't know. I'm assuming it's a male.
Okay.
And sometimes a female. Wow. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we'll put a clip in.
We won't. I'm just going to
just tell Pants
Google 2001 whaling. Anyway, so I will... Are you done?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to play a clip of the trailer, not the whole thing because it's 3 minutes long, but this is a portion of it, and then we will be in spoilers.
Dave, do you mind if I ask you a personal question?
No, not at all.
I've wondered whether you might be having some second thoughts about the mission.
How do you mean?
Rumors about something being dug up on the moon. I never gave these stories much credence, but particularly in view of some of the other things that have happened, I find them difficult to put out of my mind.
Open the pod bay doors, please, Hal.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What are you talking about, Hal?
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.
Tina,
Yes.
you didn't like it.
I'm conflicted. I'm definitely not giving it an 89%. Like that, it's not even going to fall in the upper number categories for me at the end of this.
Wow.
But there were a lot of really good things about it that I thought were cool. I just don't foresee myself ever watching this movie again. Unless it's in the background at a party where somebody is doing something that I can watch, and that's in the background, so I don't have to focus on that.
It's a really specific event that you're talking about.
I need to make sure that you understand that this is not happening twice.
Gotcha. Okay. Maybe that's what she said.
I thought it was really cool, and I had no idea what I was watching in the beginning. Like, it was, and like I was telling you, it was deep and dull, and the reason I say that is because it was really interesting to watch the apes and put yourself in that mindset. Like, this is where we started, if that makes sense, for those of you who believe in science. So it was interesting because it kind of made you think about what that would look like, and you had a visual representation of it, and you kind of saw them evolve. There were moments where, like, he picked up a bone from an animal carcass or just a skeleton, I guess, and started smashing it, and boom, you've got like a hammer, you know? And then they were able to defend their little watering hole better. And so, like, that was interesting to me. I wasn't really sure how that was going to play into the rest of the movie, because if I had to watch, like, the literal development over time, then I was really tired.
I honestly think that is what a lot of people think of when they think of this movie, is the very beginning, because it's such like an elongated scene of events that happen. But I think it does fit in the narrative of the movie.
Yeah.
But it's just, he's really taking his time with it.
Yeah.
And
I mean, he took his time with this entire movie.
correct. I'm gonna disagree on the Snyder comparison. That's ridiculous. But anyway, this is art that's Snyder.
Okay, you're right. I mean, yes. I say Snyder Cut because I have a really, really bad tendency to watch movies when I'm exhausted, or I find time for them at the last moment because I haven't been able to do it before. And so I really like to be visually stimulated. I like to be like really invested in whatever I'm watching, and it was challenging with this movie, and I'm sure maybe if I was in a different mindset it would have been a little bit different for me. However, like I said, it was honestly really beautiful. I think that especially for 1968 they did a lot of really cool things, but they were a little too long for my liking.
Getting whiplash because you're like, I hated it. So beautiful.
Because I really do want to give the movie credit where it's due. I don't think this is my cup of tea at all. And so that really says something, considering like our family really loves science and space, and you know, I've said it a million times. Those are kind of the shows we grew up on: Star Trek, Star Wars, you know, all of that. Holiday special.
Yeah. Every
Star
Christmas.
Wars is holiday special.
Every life day. Jesus.
So that part of it was really cool because I'll always find space fascinating. I think I just needed a little more. We can get there eventually. I won't talk about the ending yet, but there were a lot of cool things about it. Again, I just don't think it was my cup of tea. I don't know that I would watch this again.
Fair. Okay. Just to put the beginning into perspective for people, we open with like there's a few different title cards throughout the film, and the first one is Dawn of Man, and it shows a bunch of apes just in their little area near their little watering hole thing, and they're all eating plant life in the beginning.
Which is scarce.
Right. They're vegan apes, right? So they're, you know, a big happy family. There's little babies around, and those were like, I think the only actual monkeys they used in the movie were the babies. Everybody else was like mimes and costumes, I think. But the whole thing is they're going about their day, their life, and the monolith appears out of nowhere. And what this is, I mean, a lot of people have seen it in just like pop culture references, and they might not know what it's from or whatever, but it's just a pitch black
Flat rectangle?
I mean, yeah, I don't
Not
want to
super flat.
Right. It's a
But it is longer than it is wide.
right. So imagine a door,
Okay.
a little thicker than a door, but just black. No doorknob or hinges.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it just appears to them out of nowhere, and they're like, what the fuck is this? Monkey noise, right? So it's at this point that they're kind of introduced to the concept of violence and that they can kill for food. So they start getting really territorial around their watering hole, and they start kind of picking fights with each other. And they realize that they can, kill this leopard or jaguar or whatever it was that attacks one of them.
That particular ape did die. I think that you might be mixing up when they started getting violent is when the other, we'll call it the other group of apes comes to the watering hole. And then the group that has the bones hits, I guess, their leader. And then that group goes away.
Okay, sure.
But I never saw them actually attack a jaguar.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I might be
Sorry, I just wanted to
merging those two. Sure. But yeah, they've never defended themselves, I guess you could say. So this leopard attacks one of them, he dies. And after the monolith comes and everything, they get kind of violent, and they develop what's essentially the first weapon.
Violent or intelligent?
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, with the intelligence that you can kill for food comes violence to get that food,
Sure.
and then violence for your territory.
Yeah.
Right? So anyway, it shows this one of the apes kind of smashing a bone into, another set of bones and breaking it and whatever. And that's when we get this really cool transition shot of the ape throws the bone up into the air, and it's just kind of like swirling. And then there's like a smash cut to what I thought was a spaceship in space. And it perfectly lines up with how the bone was positioned in frame, right? So it's a really cool transition anyway. But I did read afterwards that Kubrick actually clarified that this thing in space is it's a nuke. So it's a bomb, it's a weapon. So his whole thing was he's going from the most primitive of weapon to the most sophisticated.
Oh, okay.
In just like a snapshot.
Yeah.
So, that's the end of the monkey part, right? So then we're in space for the rest of the movie, and it's going through what I assume is the year 2001, where it's showing different spacecrafts and different people working on the spacecrafts, and I thought it was funny they used Pan Am as the company, and that there was a lot of those. Hilton was in there, Whirlpool was in there. All of them are gone except for Hilton.
Yeah, I thought it was really funny. Not funny, but kind of cute and clever that I guess you can call them flight attendants, but they had those grip shoes because there's zero gravity, but this allows them to be able to mimic like walking on a surface.
Right. It's like Velcro or something. Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting.
That's one of the first times whenever it shows the flight attendant stewardess on the spaceship thing that I was like, shit, like this was in the 60s, right? And there is a pen floating through the screen,
through the cabin,
and it's like seamless. Like I looked up how it was done, and you can't even tell. Like I thought it was maybe like a string or something, and they actually took like a. Do you care?
No, I do. Yeah,
okay.
Go ahead.
They actually took a really clean piece of plexiglass and used double-sided tape, which apparently was like newly invented at the time.
Nice. And
they stuck it to it, and they just had the camera facing through the glass, and they just kind of rotated the plexiglass and
cool.
moved it. And Like you can tell if you go back and just watch that part when the flight attendant reaches out and grabs the pen, there's a little bit of a tug. And I think she was actually supposed to twist and pull it, but she didn't, and that's why there's a little bit of a it's slight jerk. But that's just one of like the cool things that this did for its time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that chick was apparently like super high on pain meds also, so her staggered walking was because she was stoned.
Oh.
But
not zero gravity.
But Kubrick liked it because it worked with the scene.
Wow.
Yeah.
Could you take some more of this?
So anyway, we're introduced to all these people who there's one particular Dr. Floyd, I think it was, and he's being sent to the moon, and because there's quote unquote an epidemic outbreak or something, and that's just a cover story because they found the monolith on the moon.
Yeah. So
same monolith apparently from the beginning has now been dug up on the moon because they found that it was emitting some sort of signal. And so there's this big excavation site, and all these people are just kind of gathered around it, and it's quickly, they quickly start going crazy, essentially. Like they're grabbing their helmet, screaming, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I believe it happens right after one of them touches it. Like he reaches
I think they had touched it, and then they were about to take like a group photo.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, as far as the movie goes, they were emitting like a frequency.
Right.
I don't know if that's what they heard. I think that was just to get across the message, like you were saying, that it rattled them.
Well, going back to the apes in the beginning, they had this, conscious altering event where they got intelligent once they touched it. So same thing is happening here. So then we cut to, I believe it's 18 months later. Actually,
Yes.
didn't write that down. But yeah, 18 months later. And it's a journey to Jupiter, essentially, because the signal that the monolith
is emitted
is to Jupiter.
Yes.
I don't know how they know that.
Yeah,
but
I don't either.
Sure. So that's why they're now sending people to Jupiter to see why, pretty much. So, and that's where the bulk of the movie, I guess, takes place, is on this journey on, I think it's Discovery 1 or something like that, following Frank and Dave to, as they're on this super fancy ship.
Yeah.
Along with an artificial intelligence named HAL, or HAL 9000.
And a group of, like, in a whole crew that's hibernate, or like in...
Like hypersleeper.
Hypersleepers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were put into sleep prior to launching, which I think they mentioned at some point was not normal. Like they normally go in
and
after
then
launching. Right. So they had 3 crew members that were asleep, and they were supposed to be like the surveyors or something whenever they get to Jupiter. But they die.
Spoiler alert.
Well, we're in spoilers. As you mentioned, most of the movie is just these really like impressive long takes of tasks. Right. And
hatches opening, ships turning, people. I do want to like just go back just like a hair.
Yeah, I talked a lot, please.
Because I think that it's worth mentioning that they did a lot with what they had. And I mean that in the sense of there's a really cool scene where this guy's exercising and he's going around this circle and, he's using his grip shoes, which everyone seems to have trouble with except for him while he's running. And I thought that was really neat. And it's like you could really utilize every single inch of whatever they were using. There's also going back to the stewardess. I thought it was really neat that she started what we would think is like
right side
the
up.
ground. And then she just does this like little walk and suddenly up is down. And she goes into like other cabins and people are, sitting upside down, if you want to put it that way in quotations. Right. And again, there's zero gravity, but it was really neat to look at all the different elements that they really thought out to make sure that this was going to be a cool movie. And I really did appreciate those things because, like I said, a lot of these scenes are elongated and they're really hard to watch. But those kinds of things I did enjoy.
Right.
Because somebody, you know, really thought about, okay, what would this look like if there was a stewardess here? Or what would it look like if somebody was exercising? Because that's also like something that astronauts have to do now, right? They when they're in space, they're losing muscle mass. And so they're having to exercise, but they have to use like special equipment because of zero gravity. And here it was like this guy could literally take a jog while he was in space. So I thought that was really neat.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the first thing we see when we're introduced to Dave, right? And he's, as you said, he's running around this circular cabin, and it's almost like the easiest thing I could equate it to is a hamster wheel.
Yeah.
But the wheel's not moving; he's moving.
Yes.
And all around this wheel is different stations and
Yes.
people in cryosleep or whatever, and the people who are at these stations are positioned upside down and sideways, and it's just like, I don't know how they did that,
Yeah.
because these people don't look like they're upside down. They're you know, their hair's not falling or whatever. I looked for making ofs and I only found some, but I saw models of how this was, when they thought about it, I guess. But nothing told me how they did it. And I mean, apparently Kubrick like took all of the notes for the sets and maybe how he did it and like burned them after the movie.
Oh.
Because he like didn't want cheap space knockoffs afterwards. Something along those lines.
Yeah.
But anyway,
It was super cool.
yeah, no, it's fucking awesome. So, you know, that's when we're told 3 of the 5 people, as we said, are in hibernation, and we're introduced to the HAL 9000, which likes to be called HAL, and it's a foolproof, incapable of error artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
And it's what's manning the mission almost, along
Yes.
with the humans.
Yeah. They consider Hal to be essentially another crew member.
Right.
I thought it was really interesting that they made Hal personable. So when they're doing that interview where they're talking about Hal and him being on the mission, and they're interviewing Dave and possibly Frank, I don't remember if it was both of them or not. And, you know, they're like, you know, he does have some emotional infliction in his words. I couldn't tell you if he actually is capable of feeling emotions, but it makes it easier for us to talk to him. And I was like, all right, that's true. Because, yeah, the way that he speaks, exactly like you said, it can go either way. It can be soothing, like you have something that you trust, or it can be incredibly scary and something that you're trying to run away from.
Right. Like it depends on what part of the movie you're watching.
Yeah.
Because like he's probably one of like the most effective like villains in a movie that I've seen. Because he starts off as one thing that is completely like innocuous and tame and, you know, little puppy, right?
Right.
And
well, he also talks about his excitement about the mission. Like they're interviewing Hal.
Yeah.
And he's saying he is very excited to assist the crew however he can. Like this is what he was made to do. This is what excites him.
Right. And like I mean we've seen, you know, artificial intelligence in a lot of future space type movies, and some of them are evil, some of them are, you know, part of the crew. There's that in Trek and, you know, sometimes Star Wars, but they look like robots, right? You kind of get the feeling after, you know, a few scenes that he's probably gonna shit the bed and be a meanie. But like I totally buy that they're fine with him, that they trust him.
Yeah.
Or it, whatever.
There's no reason for them not to, and I think that up until a certain point where I guess Central Command, or do they say what they are?
Sure, Central Command.
Well, I think that they do trust him up until Central Command says, you know, but I will tell you that Hal, there is no error, and that Hal is wrong. And that completely goes against everything that they've been taught about this machine. I think they also mentioned that there's been several of them. And so Hal, since he's incapable of making errors, like, that's a really big shock to everyone.
And you're mentioning, or you're referring to the broken satellite?
Yes.
Right. So Hal tells Frank and Dave that there's going to be an imminent failure on one of the satellites on the outside, and that they need to fix it. Mm-hmm. So they go out, do that, whatever, but there's
no error.
No error, right? And Hal's explanation is that, you know, any error that might look like his is actually human error.
Right.
That it's not him.
I think Dave asks him, like, how can you... He phrases it in a... And that's the cool thing, too. Like, they phrase their questions in a very articulate and specific manner. Like,
right.
They ask very direct questions. We'll go with that. Mm-hmm. Because I think Dave at one point questions how, like, okay, well, then how can you explain this error? Like, why is this doing this? He says it in a better way. But,
right.
And exactly like Pant said... Hal is like, you know, any kind of error that I see is human error, or any kind of error that you're seeing is human error.
Right.
And that's been proven in the past, or some other stuff. Like, he tries to back it up.
Yeah. So this is, you know, they begin to second guess him, mm-hmm. and they try and hide from him so that they can talk or so they can talk alone. Uh-huh. Right. So they get in one of the little pods that, you know, they go into space with, whatever. These cute little balls with little
arms.
Yeah, what am I doing?
Little appendages.
Yep.
What is this?
It reminded me of...
What is this? Like
something.
Mr. Krabs, but with additional appendages?
Not at all. No, just like a sphere with little... I don't know. Anyway. So they get in this thing, and it's, you know, soundproof, and they're pretty sure that Hal can't hear them because they try and call for him. They normally get a response no matter what. He doesn't respond, so they assume they're sealed off. Mm-hmm. And they are, but apparently Hal can also read lips. And Hal is all over this ship. It's like a little camera intercom looking thing inside all of the control panels in every room.
Yeah.
It's like Alexa and whatever Siri is for us now.
On
like
crack.
They're everywhere.
Yep.
Right. Hal can read their lips through the window, and we don't really know what they're saying. But it's obvious that they are distrusting of Al now, mm-hmm. and they need to shut him down or do something about it.
You have like that little bit of dialogue that we are listening in on where they're like, do you think it's possible? Like, Hal doesn't make mistakes. And then it cuts to outside of the pod, and it's almost like you're Hal's eyes,
right? And
you're going left to right following the conversation between the two lips.
Right. So yeah, there's a lot of like Hal POV mm-hmm. shots that are pretty cool.
Thank you. Yeah, point of view.
Yeah. At that point, there's an intermission, which is like 3 to 5 minutes of music. So I did fast forward that.
Maybe that was allowing people to use the bathroom back then.
I assume it was.
Yeah.
Because
they don't do that anymore.
They don't. Let's see. So when did they go out and then his line gets cut?
Yeah, so right after they have that discussion,
mm-hmm.
They talk to Hal again. And Hal is saying to go ahead and plug the satellite back in or put that part back. And we'll watch the error unfold, and then we can dissect what's going on. So Frank, God bless his soul, gets into his pod, gets out of his pod to go attempt to fix it, and just gets, like, caboodled into space.
Caboodled.
Yeah. I don't know if the line cutting came at the same time or like a little before,
very quick.
And that's why he went off, because like he was, I don't know, I'm not really sure.
It literally
it all
just
happens really fast.
Cuts to him like going to do this thing, and then jump cuts to him flying off into space with his line cut, and the pod just like
also whirling.
Yeah, like it's like chaos.
Yeah.
Right. And
Dave sees it, starts, freaking out, and gets into his pod to try and rescue Frank.
Yeah, and during that time that he's outside is when we really start seeing Hal like lose his shit.
Yeah.
And it's while Dave is gone that we start seeing warnings of the life support systems for the people in hypersleep or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Failing.
And yeah, it goes from like computer malfunction to life functions critical to life functions terminated.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all while Dave is out trying to get Frank.
Right.
Which he does, and he's still dead, but he uses the little robot arms to to grab Frank.
To recover his body.
Yeah, and then he just has to let him go.
Well,
Bye, Frank.
Before he lets him go, he's attempting to get back into the ship.
Indeed.
And Hal will not let him.
Yes. Says, I'm sorry, Dave. I can't do that.
And the way that Hal speaks to Dave...
So soothing.
...is so scary. And it kind of...
It's really the voice you want to wake up to in the morning.
Is it? Is
Yeah.
it, Pants?
Like, hi, Dave. Hi, Pants.
Stop. It provoked thought in regard to how immersed we are in technology. I don't think I know a single person who doesn't have a Google or an Alexa or an iPhone or a Samsung. Ew.
Ugh.
And so it was one of those things that it provoked me to think about people who do not want to get vaccinated for the wrong reasons. I understand that there are some things that are religious or medical that are, not allowing you to get the vaccine. But if you're one of those people that thinks that the government cares about your body so much that they're going to put a microchip in you to track you down, bitch, they're already fucking doing it. Look at your phone. I can guarantee that your phone knows way the fuck more about you than your mama does. It knows where you go. It knows where you frequently stop. It knows your job. It probably knows your social security number. It knows your phone number. It knows who you speak to. It knows who you text. It knows what you like to buy.
Your porn preferences.
It's like, would you like to do private browser for this?
Of course, Dave.
And so you look at it and kind of the way that Hal was telling Dave he couldn't get in, and that was just kind of a tangent. The way that Hal is telling Dave that he can't get into his house kind of makes you think about...
House.
Did I say that? It's because that's my next point. Sorry. It makes you think about the way that Hal wouldn't let Dave get into the ship. It kind of made me think about what that would be like if your house wouldn't let you get into your house.
Yeah, like Smart House.
Exactly. Or you're in a car somewhere and your car's like, this conversation is what does he say? This conversation is no longer getting us anywhere.
Yeah.
We're going to phrase it that way. I'm going to discontinue it. And your car just like literally drives off and leaves you deserted in the middle of Arizona. So it's funny because I feel like I don't want to be negative about artificial intelligence because I think that that's crazy, and we're even making strides towards it now. Like if you think about it, the way that marketing is done, for example, you click on an ad and you're about to get flooded all over your Facebook or Instagram page about Hungry Root and freaking Blue Apron and you're getting married. These are different places that you can look at, like we already have smart intelligence.
Yeah.
And so I was just
smart
thinking about
It's not
artificial, so what do I call it?
But smart is intelligent.
Well, clearly I'm not. So it just kind of makes you look into your future. And I'll give you an example. I was driving a friend downtown. This is an older friend, and they don't really use technology the way that I use. So like Waze or Maps or Google Maps, whatever you want to use. They have to plan out a trip, take pictures of where they're going to go, figure out what that route is going to look like so that they can get to their destination.
It's adorable.
It is so cute. But technology from when that person was younger, my age, let's go with that, to now, I mean, I can literally just plug in my phone and it'll take me to where I'm going. And that's only been 40 years. So, I mean, we've talked about this before, using TomTom and all that jazz.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, technology is constantly evolving. So I wonder if in the next, 20 years, I'm going to come over and your house is going to be like, I'm sorry, Tina, Pants doesn't want to speak with you. And then just like literally a boot comes out of the ground and kicks my ass to the car. My Tesla's like, shall I take you to Whataburger?
I like how in this scenario you think you have a Tesla.
Yeah, well, everyone will have one.
Dave
I'm going to be successful. So I hate that you laughed. Anyways, my Tesla would know that when I'm sad, I would like a chocolate milkshake. So, shall I take you to Whataburger? I'm like,
Yes, Dave.
go ahead, Hallie. Hallie.
I called him Dave. That's not right. It's okay.
You just want to wake up with Dave.
No. I was really wondering where you were going with the vaccine. I was like, oh, but that makes sense. Like, no, I won't go too much longer on it, but everything that, especially this generation and newer generations after us, we're millennials. So, what Gen Z, Gen whatever the fuck, I don't know.
Gen Z, yeah.
I don't know all of them, but they're growing up where computers are an extension of your home.
Yeah.
Like, they're not this, fancy thing that one person in the neighborhood has and, let's, come over and play solitaire. I don't know.
I mean, I had dial-up.
Yeah.
Like, there
I
was
did too.
no such thing as getting on your phone and searching for a movie synopsis. Like, that wasn't a thing. Like, you had to wait for your little man, and God forbid you get a phone call, because then you're screwed.
Exactly. So I mean, now, we're already so... We have it so ingrained in us that this is okay when it's not. Like, I love technology. I'm so glad that I have my MacBook, my iPad, and like our whole podcast setup,
Right.
But at the same time, I think about, should I, make this phone call in earshot of my Google Home? Or should I make this,
Is it okay
bad
to have...
presidential joke?
Is it okay for me to have sexy time in the same room as my Google Home?
Right, with or without the camera. They all have mics in them.
Yeah.
And
waiting for you to say, okay, cool.
exactly.
So they're constantly listening. See, it turned on. That's
it.
crazy. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're everywhere. For those of you who are not here with us, Pants's Google just alerted him that we said, hey, Google.
that word, yes.
I whispered it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to beep that so nobody's gets turned on when they hear it. Yeah. I go into my kitchen and I have a Google Home Max, and it does have the camera on it. It sees mine or my husband's face, and it says, "Good morning, Brian."
Yeah.
Or "Good morning, Stefan," or whatever. And it knows our face, and like our phones with Face ID know our face, and our whatever knows our fingerprint. And it's insane that we're just giving all this information for convenience.
Same person that won't drive downtown also wouldn't put their thumbprint into their phone because they didn't want the cloud to have their thumbprint, and then facial recognition came out and also would not do that because the cloud cannot have their face.
I would understand that if it were an Android, to be honest. But Apple's encryption is actually really good, so I'm not too worried about it. But
well, some people don't want the vaccine because of a microchip, so
That's true.
to them their own. What is it? To
each their own.
To each their
To them
own.
their each.
To them their each. Lend me your ears.
Your vaccinated ears.
We went so off topic.
We did.
Coming back. That was a longer intermission.
Yeah. So anyway, Hal's still pissed. And anyway, he's locked all the pod bay doors, and Dave cannot get back in. And
Oh no, David.
you
Sorry.
can't come in, David. Stay in space. I wish I could do a better one, but I can hear it and it sounds good.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I love her.
Dave decides to just say fuck Hal, and he turns the pod around and goes through this
like
long
emergency.
process of blasting himself back into the ship.
Right.
He has to let Frank go. Frank goes to space. Bye, Frank. And he blasts himself back in, and I thought it was really cool that I did actually see or hear how this was made, and they only could do it once because they couldn't have a stunt double, because didn't have a helmet on and his face is clearly shown. And they pretty much had to wire him in and just like throw him against walls. And he was like bruised and shit afterwards. And I mean, the scene is him experiencing the vacuum of space with no helmet and just like shuttling or shooting himself into launching himself into this little bay area and shutting the door, which is actually possible. I read it's not recommended. The way that he did it, the only mistake he made was taking a deep breath first. You shouldn't go into the vacuum of space holding your breath. You should exhale and then go, because your lungs are gonna like expand, I guess. So that was the only part that probably wouldn't. I mean, the whole thing, he'd probably die, if he really tried it. But It is kind of possible. I see. But he shouldn't have taken a deep breath anyway.
That's really cool that was the only thing that they fudged up.
For the most part, yeah.
I mean, just in that particular scene.
Yeah. But anyway, he gets in and he right away starts. He goes into like the logic center of the ship where all of Hal's data is, and he just starts slowly disabling it and pulling out the little crystal card-looking glass things that hold his memory and whatever.
And Hal's voice just keeps getting...
It's almost sad.
It was unnerving for me because you have to, in that moment, accept that Hal is either... He knows what he's doing and he's about to surprise Dave and be like, no, like I'm still here. Or he's truly getting shut down, which is really difficult because they had already mentioned that he's another crew member and they've been with Hal for 18 months.
Right. I mean, the way that as Dave is slowly, taking his parts away, Hal's like begging for him to stop. And it's not like crying begging. He's, a computer, but it's like the way that his like little inflections are and how his voice just kind of gets lower and slower, and he's just like
bleeding.
Yeah. And he says, he can feel the life going away. He can tell he's dying. And he starts singing Daisy, which is like one of I think it's the first song that a computer was ever able to sing. And like that's a real thing. And he barely even finishes the song, or he doesn't, I don't remember, and then he's shut down. Yeah. And I guess as his last thing to say, he shows Dave this video that was pre-recorded from like Mission Control, people on Earth, whatever, pretty much saying that this monolith, this object, was found on the moon, and it's the first time that we've confirmed intelligent life outside of Earth. And it sent this signal to Jupiter, which is why you're going to Jupiter. Yeah. By the time you're hearing this, all of your crew's awoken and you're all here, and congratulations, whatever. Everybody's dead, so who cares? But that's just kind of like a big what the fuck to Dave. And with Hal gone now, we have another little title card, and it's Jupiter and Beyond the Infinite, I think. Out of like the whole movie, this is where it gets really weird. Yes. This part I remembered because I was like, I don't know if I want to sit through the psychedelic stuff. Yeah. But anyway, he gets within eyeshot of Jupiter, and we start seeing the monolith floating in space. So it's awesome looking, really. It looks like CGI. Like it looks really good with the way the sunlight's reflecting off of it, and then it's just space all around it. It's just essentially this black block floating against black space, but you can see it. Right? I just thought it was cool. So this is what is kind of referred to as Dave going through the Stargate. It's not explicitly said in the movie. I was confused until I did a little further reading, and it is literally 9 minutes of you as the viewer going through a tunnel of like psychedelic imagery and lights, and there's a lot of sporadic, chaotic noise, and you see Dave's face just kind of like every once in a while looking shocked, and then you're back on the tunnel. What did you make of that? Or what?
I don't know if it was like things that came to mind watching that was black hole. I mean, out of everything we know about space, we know nothing, and so I wasn't sure if maybe like the intelligence was bringing him somewhere, and like this is what I can equate to like light speed, but maybe not going. I mean, he's shaking pretty violently. I don't know that his ship could handle that, but maybe if he had assistance from whatever life form that is. But I honestly wasn't. I don't know. It was just very visually stimulating for a solid, like,
9 minutes.
9 minutes.
Yeah. So you were kind of on the money at the beginning.
With, like, a black hole or wormhole?
No, with it taking him somewhere.
Oh, okay.
So this Stargate title, again, never mentioned in the movie, but it's what this sequence is known as. And this intelligence is taking him from this checkpoint on Jupiter where the intelligence essentially sent him to the next step. And the next step being him kind of evolving into the next stage of human intelligence. So 9 minutes of this Stargate shit.
Sure.
And then we're in a really like Victorian maybe looking antique room, and it's his space pod that's in the room. It's a huge, this room is probably the size of my house, like no joke, and his space pod thing is just sitting in the corner of the room. He's in it just looking around, and we the viewer are also looking around with him, and it's just this really like ornate antique white room, and the floor's lit, like there's lights under the floor.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very dull olive green accent pieces.
Yeah. And then he sees himself outside of the pod, and we get a close look at this version of him outside the pod, and he's getting some wrinkles on his face. He still has the helmet on, but he looks a little bit older. And then it shows the POV of this version of him looking at the pod, but the pod is gone.
Yeah.
So this is pretty much just Kubrick's way of passing time.
Sure.
For him.
And that's what I was kind of confused about. Like, I didn't know if at first, like, a theory was maybe alternate realities kind of seeing each other, like they're in the same room going through different points of time, but they have some kind of connection, or like this is a time lapse, or time lapse is not the right word to use.
Sure. I mean, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So like we're just seeing he's still kind of there, but I think that was the way it transitioned.
That was it. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
So that's instead of like a dissolve cut to him being older, this is how the filmmakers have chosen to do that. So his younger self is looking at a slightly older version, and then we're only on that slightly older version.
Yeah.
And he goes and like explores the bathroom a little bit, and then he peeks out of the bathroom and sees another person sitting at a little dinner table. That's another older version of him. It's like maybe like 10 years older. And then we're on that version, and the other one's gone.
Yeah.
So this one's having dinner. Again, more wrinkles. He's older, white hair. He knocks a wine glass, a glass. I was trying to say what it was made of. It is glass.
Like a crystal glass.
Sure. Knocks it off the table and it smashes. And he looks up from the broken glass and sees the oldest version of him laying in bed, dying pretty much. So he's bald, super wrinkly, old.
Yeah.
And this is the last version of Dave we see. And he's, well, not really. Scratch that.
I see what you're trying to say.
Right.
At least in this timeline,
this
if you want to
is-
put it that way.
Right. This is the last version of this Dave we see.
Old Dave.
Right. He's looking up from his bed, and he sees the monolith again in the room. And again, it just shows you how fucking huge this room is, because this monolith is massive. And he kind of reaches out to it, but of course it's all the way across this probably 100-foot room. I don't know. And
it just gets bigger and bigger.
It does. And he reaches out to it, and I saw something online that I liked and I wanted to mention. So I'm not saying I made this connection, but I like it. It was kind of like the Sistine Chapel. It's the creation of Adam, right? And it has God reaching out and Adam reaching out as well. And they don't touch, but you know, they're that close. And that's what this person that I read up online kind of equated it to, is that this monolith is God. And you know, Dave is just reaching out, you know, because you know it's God. That's in wonder, right? And he wouldn't be here without the monolith.
Yeah.
But the next thing that we see is Dave is gone. This version of Dave is gone, and in his place is a very large baby in a bubble.
Very creepy baby.
It's not a pretty baby. No.
Eyes open.
Right.
Yeah. Like, I don't need a Creed song to inherit this baby.
Jesus Christ. So I don't know if it's implied that maybe he did touch the monolith like everybody before him, like the monkeys did, like the astronauts did, and then this is the next step. Or if we're just supposed to make those connections, I don't know. But it's this baby laying there, and then we're out of the room, we're in space, we're looking at the Earth. There, you know, the score is swelling and it's loud and whatever. Here comes the baby. It's like floating in the frame in his bubble. It's like looking down at the Earth. And it ends on a very scary image of this baby. Kind of looks like Gollum. And that's it.
Yeah.
So
looking at the Earth like, my precious. I'm so good at it. I can't.
All right. So this is from what I gather, from what I've read, what I choose to read the movie as is, you know, we're starting at the dawn of man and we're escalating to the next level of human intelligence. Like, I don't want to say like this baby's like a Superman, but it's a level above what we as humans are.
Sure.
This baby in a previous life or whatever saw God or saw this creator of us. You know, they can live their life, you know, with that knowledge, and I don't know where I'm going with it, but because it's
I mean, it can be left up to anybody's interpretation. I don't think that there's ever going to be, because I mean, when this movie ended, it took talking about it for me to be a little more okay with it, because I kind of wanted it to be complete, but I understand that it was left open because that was a director's choice not to finish that out, right? Or a writer's choice not to finish that out.
And
unless they did and we're just stupid.
He wrote and directed it, so you're good.
Yeah.
So, you know, he even said, if you come out of this movie with a definite answer, like you didn't watch it right, or he didn't do his job, because it's purposefully vague, and it can be left up to the interpretation I got or whatever. I'm glad I watched it. I enjoyed it.
I'm glad you're glad.
Wow. All right. So two things I wanted to add, and then we can be done. So this movie was the first movie to get an MPAA rating in theaters.
Oh.
Yes. Which is G. But I thought it was funny because the last 60s movies we did, Night of the Living Dead, was the last one without an MPAA.
Yeah.
And also, according to Douglas Trumbull, the total footage shot was almost 200 times the final length of the film.
Wow.
Yeah. So, give me that Snyder cut.
No, thank you.
I was doing some like deep diving today on the movie, and I found this quote by Stanley Kubrick in regards to this room that David is taken to. So he said, quote, "He's taken into another dimension of time and space, into the presence of godlike entities who have transcended matter and who are now creatures of pure energy. They provide an environment for him, a human zoo, if you like. They study him. His life passes before him. He sees himself age in what seems just a matter of moments. He dies and he's reborn, transfigured, enhanced, a super being." I like that.
Yeah.
Maybe he's Superman.
Yeah. I mean, how else is he going to get to Earth? He's in space right now.
Well, I mean, he made it out of that house, so he's doing something right.
Yeah. It'd be funny if the last scene was him just extending his right arm and then he just shoots towards Earth.
Do you think that'd be funny?
Pants! Now that we have concluded our TED Talk, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate this movie?
I would give this a solid 7.5.
Ah, nice. Very nice.
Yeah. So, for you though,
Yeah.
on a scale of 1 to 2001,
Okay.
what would you give this movie?
4.5.
Damn.
I already had an answer in my head. I didn't have time to think about it. Would that equate to like 450,000? I mean 450? Like on the dot? Anyways.
No, I think it'd be 850.
On a realistic scale,
which I gave you.
I would do 4.5.
That's pretty low.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Pants, this was not my cup of tea.
I thought you liked it more after talking about it.
I understand it more after talking about it.
I
That does
don't.
not change.
I don't.
I understand that I'm not going to understand. And
Okay.
when it comes to things like that, that's artistic kind of liberties. And I think that the more you dive into it, the harder you think about it, you kind of lose what initially made you like it, if you like it. For me, I don't. I mean, sometimes it expands that, but also some things aren't really meant to have a direct answer. Like,
Sure.
you take the experiences you've had or the things that you believe in and you apply it to things that you don't understand to help you understand them. And that's your interpretation of it. That's fine. Kind of like, people think that the government cares enough to put a microchip in your arm. Like, to them, each own.
Yeah.
Just gonna keep screwing it up.
Yeah, it's fine.
For kicks and giggles. Oh, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed our banter during this episode of...
Do you not know the name of our show?
No, I was trying to think of something funny, but it's not going to come out.
All right.
If you did enjoy it, definitely make sure that you follow us. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, anywhere that you listen to your podcasts. We are there. But more importantly...
Just ask your Google. Ask Siri.
Yeah, exactly. Don't ask your Samsung. Please look for us on Apple Podcasts because there you can rate and review us and that helps people find us. Leave us a nice little comment. Let us know what you think.
You can also follow us on Twitter at WTF Did I Watch Pod. We're also on Instagram at WTF Did I Just Watch Pod.
And you can email us at WTFDidIJustWatchPod@gmail.com.
Yes. If you have suggestions of, movies 60s through 90s that you think maybe we
Should watch.
Let us know.
Yeah, for sure.
Have you seen 2010, the year we make contact? The 2001 sequel? Is it good? I'd like to know because it's not streaming. I don't know if I want to buy it.
How much is it?
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's probably over $5. Yeah.
I feel like we're so saturated with free shit that it's really, really, really hard. And I say free, you pay a monthly premium, but
I do.
that it's really hard for me to also buy movies now. Like I have to really like it, or it has to be at a pretty reasonable price.
Indeed, I agree.
Half price books.
But yeah, check out the movie if you want to. It's on HBO Max. All right, and next week for our 70s week, we will be watching Westworld. It is streaming somewhere, I don't remember, but if you find it, watch it and come back and hear us chat about it.
Yeah, next Friday
Yeah.
on your commute.
Yeah. Or, when you're jogging. If you're,
Yeah, or showering.
Oh,
Or pooping.
love a good poop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take us with you to the movies, and when you go on your pee break, hit play.
Indeed.
Boom.
Boom goes the poop.
And boom goes this podcast. See you later. Bye.
Tina sells gas. Bye.
Sorry, I'm gassy. I told you.
I'm so glad I started.
No. Parents, don't be ugly to me. God. Everybody farts. Get over yourself. Do not put that in the middle of the podcast. That can go at the end.
Deal.
Oh, I hate that you edit these.
Well.